Well, welcome back to Constitutional Hill as we, of course, broadcasting from the women's prison ahead of the IEC's Women's Day event. And amazing location. I've been walking around just as we had a little bit of a gap to just try and do it too. I mean, I've been here many times before, and every time it gets to you more and more as you see the significance of this particular area. We're standing at the moment as what's called the Fatima Yard and Winnie's Yard, and obviously named after Fatima Meer and Winnie Madikizela Mandela. And just to read a little bit of this history to you, it says, in the aftermath of the Soweto uprisings of 1976, the security police detained hundreds of school teachers, priests and leaders of parents and students associations, and the schoolgirls and women who were arrested under Section 10 of the Internal Security Act were brought into this exact yard. Some of them were seen as dangerous agitators, isolated them from the rest of the prison and put them in single cells. And among the first to be detained here were Winnie Mandela and Fatima Meer. And the two yards where they used to scream across to talk to each other was really where they got the names from. So there are so many of these different kinds of stories that are here within these walls, and it's wonderful. If you haven't come to visit, it certainly is well worth your time to come over and have a look at this. So the IEC deciding to host their Women's Day event, as I've said, and I'm just going to zoom in on the theme a little bit here. It's called Women Championing Democracy, Paving the Way to the 2026 local government elections. Well, let's talk a little bit more about women in politics and, you know, where we stand in society when it comes to this and how we are doing as a country. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Commissioner Janet Love. She, of course, is the IEC Vice Chairperson, and then, of course, Doctor Sunshine Myende, who's the NYDA Board Chairperson. Ladies, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us here on the program and for being in such a beautiful venue with so much significance. It really does. So before we get into a little bit more of it, I want to talk about the elections. I mean, this really is in the run-up to the 2026 elections. Yesterday, the time frame was announced. So we're looking at from, what is it, about the 4th of November until the beginning of January?
Till the end of January, 2027.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right. We already have the preparations that are well underway, but I think we also have a number of local government by-elections that are giving people a taste for what really is to come. And so it's a time for people to do many things, to reflect on the fact that they want where they live to be working out a lot better and to maybe step up and become candidates. This is a time for young women to come forward and to say, I'm willing to put my hand up, whether as a member of an organization or as an independent candidate, because that is possible in our wards. We've got people who need to check their registration and really be able to say, I'm going to be able to make a difference where I live, because that's where they have to vote. So for us, it is saying to the people of South Africa, this is the time to be optimistic about not so much what other people can do for us, but what we can do for ourselves. And that, I think, is the message that we're saying, and that's the message, by the way, of this prison. That's the message of the people who really gave so much, not because they thought that somehow somebody's going to do something for them, or that they thought they knew how things were going to turn out, but because they believed not just in themselves, but in everybody around them.
So this is where I bring the youth into the conversation, and I ask you, Dr. Myende, the whole story about the disillusionment amongst the youth. And if we talk about the youth as a grouping, but if we isolate it to women within youth, you've heard that it's our responsibility to get involved, but yet the youth don't want to be involved and they're feeling isolated from everything. Talk to us about how they are feeling, particularly at a time like this.
I think it's because of the fact that young people are unemployed. Young people are struggling to access information. They're struggling to access opportunities, particularly young people from rural areas. They're struggling to even understand what government is offering currently, because I think there's a lot that the government is offering because they don't have that particular information. Then therefore they struggle to participate in any form of elections because they feel like there's no need for me to, because I'm still been unemployed over the years. The research from the last last elections indicated that less young people participated in the elections because they don't see a reason to. So I think that going to the next elections, we're going to urge more young people to go and participate in the elections because we are the future of the country. So if we're not going to participate, then we're not able to define what South Africa should look like.
Yeah, and it's vitally important, and that brings me to where we are right now. Do you feel the significance of the venue that we're broadcasting from and where this event is happening?
Definitely. We are standing today because other young women before us fought so hard so that we're able to stand today. So it's amazing. One feels warm to be here, and one gains strength from the likes of Mamuni Mandela that they were able to fight, and it's a responsibility that as this current generation of young women, we need to go out there and be able to participate in different structures, even in our political parties. Research says that there are more women or young women that are councillors, but less are mayors, less are speakers. So people in their respective political parties and organizations, they need to go and advocate for representation even in the strategic leadership positions that are there within the municipalities.
Yeah, and that I imagine is one of the reasons why you chose this venue as the IEC, because there is so much significance here, there's so much history, and sometimes we take it for granted. I know that we wrapped up, and I refer very much so to the youth, we are wrapped up in the issues of our daily lives, that and I suppose we shouldn't be looking back, but we must never stop looking back in a way, because what these women that stood here and spent horrific times in, they fought for the freedom to vote. And I think sometimes we forget about that as a country.
They fought for the freedom to vote. They fought for the freedom of women to enjoy equality. They fought for the freedom to be activists.
Yeah.
They fought as a way of setting an example to everybody around them to become active in the community, active in building the society, active in voting for who you're going to be having to lead you in government, but also active in every space that you occupy, whether it's in informal contexts in work, if you don't have a job, as we've heard, whether it's in asking and demanding information be made available to you, even through the fact that you can access things through your library, and if your library isn't open, demanding why your library isn't open. Because those are the kinds of things that we need to be saying to the country as a whole. Elections are vital. It's very important for us to exercise the democracy that all these women have fought for. But all these women would be saying voting is not the sole activity. Voting is one kind of activity to building our democracy. Standing up, being a candidate, electing people, but then holding them to account, understanding their budget, understanding what they do, and being active in many other ways. I think that's what an election is about. It's to remind us that we are the power of the nation, and that's what people must take hold of.
And that's vitally important, because sometimes the people forget that. The people forget it and sort of look at leaders, and I see this happening. They look at them as celebrities and the untouchables. Meantime, the reality is they are not. These are not celebrities. These are not untouchables. They work for us, and yet we feel that we work for them. And this is a narrative that is pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think that this is something that we need to enforce, that elected officials are exactly that. It was because of the people that they were elected. Now,
Definitely.
I want to ask you, as from the youth's perspective, are these the kind of messages that you put towards the youth? Do you work with the IEC? Do you guys, as the NYDA and the IEC, have programs where you work together?
So during the leadership of the former executive chairperson, Mr. Tsomtweni, the NYDA had a partnership with the IEC where we're going around throughout the country encouraging young people to register to vote. So as the newly appointed executive chairperson, we're going to be having a meeting with the IEC to roll out different initiatives to encourage young people to vote, and to say that it's cool to vote because we are the future of the country, so we need to actively participate in that particular process. So we are going to be meeting with the Vice Chancellor to have an MOU to encourage young people to go and register to vote in the next coming elections.
Yeah, and we hope so, and we hope that there will be the greatest movement in terms of the youth, because that's an area we're all very, very worried about, is that the youth feel disenfranchised and they don't want to vote because nobody really talks to them. From the youth's perspective, and I know this is sort of how I'm going to wrap it up, what are the reasons that they give that they don't vote?
It's because they're unemployed.
Mostly unemployment?
Yes, they are unheard. They feel that opportunities are not coming to them, particularly those from rural areas. They feel like they've been left behind and they're not actively participating in the economy. So they need a new reform in terms of how their issues can be raised and be effectively implemented.
All right, we'll leave it there. We look forward to all of you
you.
working together. And listen, besides all of that, I hope you have a wonderful Women's Day event.
Thank you
Beautiful
very much.
messages that come through and some camaraderie amongst the women that are gathered here today. So thank you. Thanks so
Thank you
much.
very much, Lynn,
Thanks for
for having
being
us.
our guests here on the program. And of course, talking about very important issues, Doctor Sunshine Myende, who's the NYDA Board Chairperson. And of course, from the IEC, the Commissioner, Janet Love as well.